If you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you that I was happy. I had everything a woman could ask for: a loving husband, a stable home, and a job that paid well. My husband, David, was the kind of man most women dreamed of: loyal, kind, patient, and deeply in love with me. We had been married for 6 years. Our life was routine but comfortable. He would wake up early, make coffee, kiss me on the forehead, and head to work. I would follow shortly after, making my way to the corporate office where I worked as an executive assistant. To outsiders, our marriage was perfect. But perfection is often an illusion. Over time, something in me began to shift. I couldn't quite place it, but I felt restless. It wasn't that I didn't love David, I did. But our relationship had become predictable. The same conversations, the same weekend plans, the same everything. Then, there was my boss, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels was a man who commanded attention. Not just because of his looks, though he was undeniably handsome. It was something deeper, something intangible. A presence that made people pause mid-conversation when he entered a room. A confidence that was effortless, as if the world had been shaped just to accommodate him. His tailored suits fit him perfectly, exuding power. His voice, rich and steady, carried authority without the need to raise it. He wasn't just handsome, he was powerful. The kind of power that didn't need to be announced. It was in the way people gravitated toward him, hanging on to every word, waiting for his approval. He could make decisions that changed lives with a single nod, and he never hesitated. He walked with purpose, exuding a quiet dominance that made others step aside. When he spoke, people didn't just listen, they absorbed, they obeyed, they craved his validation. Confident, charismatic, unstoppable. He owned the room the moment he walked in, and people listened when he spoke. There was something intoxicating about being near a man like that. The way he carried himself, the way he commanded respect without demanding it. I had watched how others, men and women alike, tried to impress him, longing for even a fraction of his attention. And yet, somehow, it was me who had it. He was the CEO of the company, and while I was just his assistant, he made me feel like I was the most important person in the room. He never looked past me like others did. Never treated me like I was just another cog in the machine. His compliments weren't empty or routine, they felt personal, deliberate, like he saw something in me that no one else did. "You're brilliant, Ava," he would say after a well-done report, his eyes holding mine for just a second longer than necessary. "I don't know what I'd do without you." And every time he said it, my heart betrayed me just a little more. At first, I thought nothing of it. A compliment here, a passing remark there. It was harmless, wasn't it? People complimented each other all the time. And he was my boss, he was just being kind, just appreciating my work. That's what I told myself. That's what I wanted to believe. It was just a compliment, right? But then the compliments came more often. They weren't just about my work anymore. "That color looks amazing on you, Ava. You have the sharpest mind in this office and the most beautiful smile." I laughed them off at first, brushing them aside as nothing more than polite flattery. But then came the lingering glances. The way his eyes would find me in a crowded room and hold my gaze for just a beat too long. The way his touch would linger, a brief brush against my arm, a guiding hand on the small of my back as we walked into meetings. And then came the messages. At first, they were work-related, nothing unusual. But then, late at night, my phone would light up. "Hope you got home safe. You handled yourself perfectly in that meeting today. Proud of you. Wish I could talk to you right now." Each message chipped away at the wall I should have built. Each glance, each touch, each word blurred the boundaries that should have been clear. I should have ignored it. I should have told myself that nothing good could come from this. That I was a married woman. That no amount of charm or attention could ever be worth risking everything I had. I should have drawn the line. But I didn't. I let myself bask in the warmth of his attention. I let myself believe that it was innocent, that I was in control, that I could handle it. And that was my first mistake. One evening, as I was finishing up work, Mr. Daniels walked into my office. "Late night again?" he asked, smiling. "Just wrapping up," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Join me for dinner." I hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. It's just dinner, Ava." His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I forgot everything. I told myself it was innocent. A business dinner. Nothing more. I was wrong. Dinner was intoxicating. The dim lighting cast a warm glow over the table, the clinking of glasses and soft hum of conversation surrounding us like a private symphony. The wine was smooth, rich, and so was his voice, deep, confident, pulling me in with every word. The conversation flowed easily, like we had known each other forever. He listened, really listened, in a way I hadn't felt in years. There was no absent nodding, no distracted glances at a phone. Just undivided attention, eyes locked on mine, making me feel like the most fascinating person in the room. And for the first time in years, I felt seen, heard, desired. Mr. Daniels had a way of making the world fade away. He laughed at my jokes, his gaze never wavering. He leaned in when I spoke, as if my words were the only ones that mattered. And in that moment, under the soft glow of the restaurant lights, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I had been missing something all along. He made me laugh. He made me feel interesting. And when he placed his hand over mine, I didn't pull away. His touch was warm, steady, deliberate. A silent invitation. A line crossed. I should have moved. I should have broken the spell. But I didn't. I let my fingers relax beneath his, let the electricity between us linger. My heart pounded, a mixture of thrill and fear, excitement and danger. Then my phone buzzed. "David, hey, love. What time are you coming home?" Reality crashed into me like a tidal wave. My husband. My home. The life I had built. Guilt flooded me, but only for a second. Because before I could think, before I could let that feeling settle in, I did something I never imagined I would do. I silenced my phone. I told myself it was just one night. One night to feel wanted. One night to feel alive. One night that would cost me everything. I don't know when I made the decision. Maybe it was when he touched my hand, his fingers lingering just a little too long, sending a warmth through me that I hadn't felt in years. Maybe it was when he whispered how beautiful I was, his voice low, intimate, making me feel like the only woman in the world. Or maybe it was when he leaned in, lips inches from mine, his eyes searching mine for permission. And I didn't stop him. I should have. 1,000 reasons flashed through my mind: David's smile, our home, the vows we had exchanged. But all of them drowned beneath the pull of the moment, beneath the hunger in Mr. Daniels' gaze, beneath the part of me that had longed to feel this way again. The hotel room was dimly lit, casting shadows along the walls, blurring the lines between right and wrong. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a warning I chose to ignore. The air between us was electric, charged with something dangerous, something inevitable. "Ava," he whispered, his breath warm against my skin, his hands firm yet gentle as they found their way to me. I closed my eyes. And let it happen. I silenced the voice in my head, the one screaming at me to stop. I silenced the memories of the man who had loved me through everything, who had trusted me without question. I silenced the woman I used to be. And in that moment, with my heart racing and my breath hitching, I crossed a line I could never uncross. When I woke up the next morning, reality hit me like a train. The warmth of the hotel sheets, the faint scent of cologne on my skin, the quiet rise and fall of his breath beside me, it all felt like a dream. A reckless, irreversible dream. But as the early morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the truth, I knew this wasn't a dream. I had done it. I had betrayed the man who loved me. The man who had given me his heart without hesitation. The man who trusted me. And for what? A night of stolen passion? A fleeting thrill that now felt more like poison than pleasure. My chest tightened. My throat burned. Shame crept over me like a slow, suffocating tide. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Mr. Daniels. He looked peaceful, his face relaxed in sleep, unaware that the woman who had given herself to him the night before was now desperate to escape. My hands trembled as I reached for my clothes, each movement feeling heavier, slower, as if my body itself was resisting the weight of my actions. I dressed quickly, my fingers fumbling with buttons, with zippers, with the overwhelming need to erase every trace of last night. And then, without a word, without a glance back, I left. The hotel hallway was eerily quiet. My heels echoed against the polished floor, each step a reminder of the betrayal I now carried with me. The elevator ride down felt like an eternity. By the time I stepped outside, the morning air hit me like a slap to the face. It was too bright. Too real. By the time I got home, David was already at work. Relief and regret tangled inside me, twisting into something unbearable. I walked into our bedroom, my sanctuary, my home, the place where I had once felt safe, loved, whole. And then I saw her. The woman staring back at me in the mirror. Her hair was slightly tousled. Her eyes, once full of warmth, looked hollow, haunted. Her lips, the same lips that had kissed another man hours ago, were pressed into a tight, guilty line. I didn't recognize her. She was a stranger. A woman who had made a choice she could never take back. A woman who had traded trust for temptation, love for lust. A woman who had everything, and had just thrown it all away. I told myself I could move on, that I could pretend nothing had happened. But the guilt was unbearable. David noticed the change in me almost immediately. "Is everything okay?" he asked one night as we lay in bed. "Yeah, just work stress," I lied. Another lie. And another. Until I had built a web of them. I should have cut all ties with Mr. Daniels. The logical part of me knew that. I knew that continuing down this dangerous path would only lead to more pain and destruction. But the problem was, I couldn't. I couldn't walk away from the man who had given me attention when I felt invisible. I couldn't resist the thrill of his touch, the spark that made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in years. I told myself that I would stop, that I would choose my marriage over everything. But each time I saw him, each time I heard his voice, it was like something inside me broke just a little bit more. But I didn't. I didn't cut ties. The affair continued. Secret meetings in dark corners of restaurants, whispers in hallways after hours, stolen moments where time seemed to stand still, where the world outside didn't exist, and only we mattered. The thrill of it all made me feel like I was living on the edge, like I was invincible. And every stolen kiss, every touch, every glance seemed to reassure me that I was still desired, still wanted, still worth something. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was hurting David. But I kept telling myself that I could handle it. I could control it. I could balance my life between two worlds, one with David and one with Mr. Daniels. I lied to myself, convincing myself that I wasn't doing anything irreversible. Until the night David found out. I remember that night clearly. I was coming home late, trying to sneak in without waking him. But when I opened the door, I saw him standing there, his eyes burning with an intensity one had never seen before. The silence in the room was suffocating, and I felt a chill creep down my spine. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice low, but there was an edge to it that I had never heard before. I could have lied. I could have made up some excuse. But the truth was already written in the air between us, in the tension that crackled around us. He knew. David wasn't stupid. He had seen the signs, pieced together the fragments of the lies I had tried to hide. And in that moment, I knew that everything was about to come crashing down. And as the truth spilled from my lips, I saw the devastation in his eyes, the man who had loved me, who had trusted me, now standing in front of me as a stranger. The web I had woven, the lies, the deceit, they all unraveled in that one moment. And it was too late to take any of it back. It was a text message. A simple one. "Mr. Daniels, I can't stop thinking about last night." I never imagined that a few words on a screen could unravel everything I had built. But there it was, in black and white, the evidence of my betrayal laid out before me. I hadn't even noticed the message when it came through, too lost in my own thoughts, too wrapped up in the moment to think about what I was doing. But when David picked up my phone, his eyes scanning the screen with a familiarity that sent a shockwave of panic through me, I knew. I knew it was over. David saw it. The words hung in the air between us, an undeniable proof of my infidelity, and in that moment, everything shattered. "Ava," he said, his voice shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief. "What have you done?" I wanted to explain. I wanted to beg him for forgiveness, to tell him that it was a mistake, that I hadn't meant for any of this to happen. But the truth was, there were no words that could make it right. There was no explanation that would justify what I had done. I had no words. None that would change anything, none that could fix the damage I had caused. I stood there, frozen, watching the man I loved crumble before me, the man whose heart I had broken. The silence between us was deafening, louder than any words I could have spoken. In that moment, I realized that everything I had taken for granted, David's love, his trust, was slipping through my fingers like sand. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, suffocating me with its intensity. There was no turning back. The damage had been done. And all I had left was a broken man, standing there with a shattered heart, waiting for me to do something, anything, to explain why I had destroyed everything we had. But I couldn't. There was nothing left to say. No excuse. No justification that could undo what I had done. No way to soften the blow of my betrayal. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, suffocating, crushing. David didn't yell. He didn't cry. There was no explosion of anger, no desperate pleas for an explanation. Somehow, that made it worse. He just stood there, staring at me like I was a stranger. Like the woman he had loved, the woman he had built a life with, had vanished overnight, replaced by someone he no longer recognized. His eyes, once filled with warmth and devotion, were empty now. Distant. "I trusted you," he whispered, his voice raw, broken. "I loved you." The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we had lost. And then he walked away. No fight. No second chances. No last words. Just the sound of his footsteps fading, leaving me alone with the ruins of what we once had. David left that night. He packed a bag and walked out the door. And just like that, my marriage was over. The price of one night. I lost David. The pain hit me in waves, each one stronger than the last. David, the man who had been my rock, my foundation, the one I had promised to love forever. Gone. In the blink of an eye. He didn't beg for an explanation. There was no pleading, no desperate hope that I would take it all back. He simply walked away, and in doing so, he shattered the illusion that I could somehow fix what I had broken. The man who had stood by me through everything, my best friend, my partner, my confidant, was now nothing more than a memory. I lost my home. It wasn't just the house we lived in, it was everything that came with it. The late-night talks in the kitchen, the laughter shared over dinner, the comfort of waking up beside him every morning. The life we had built together had vanished in an instant. And as much as I tried to convince myself I could move on, I couldn't escape the emptiness that now surrounded me. The place where love had once thrived felt like a cold, desolate shell. I remember standing in the doorway of our bedroom, the bed that once felt like a sanctuary, now a reminder of everything I had destroyed. The walls no longer held the warmth of shared moments, instead, they echoed with silence. And it was in that silence that I realized I had nothing left. And soon, I lost my job too. At first, I didn't think it would happen. After all, I had been an asset to the company, and Mr. Daniels had always praised my work. But when he cut me out of meetings, when he stopped acknowledging me, I knew. I knew that I had become nothing more than a shadow in his eyes. Because Mr. Daniels, he had already moved on. He was the same charming, powerful CEO who commanded the room with his presence, but now, to him, I was just another face in the crowd. The flirtation, the chemistry we had shared, it was gone, dismissed, forgotten. I was no longer the woman he had once made feel special. I had been replaced with someone else. Someone who hadn't made the same mistakes. I was nothing to him. I had been a fleeting moment of distraction, a temporary indulgence. I had thought I was someone important in his world, but in reality, I had never mattered. Not in the way I had hoped. Not in the way I needed. To him, I was just another woman, another face in his endless sea of admirers. And now, I was nothing more than a regret. The reality of that hit me harder than anything else. I had lost everything, David, my home, and now even my job. And in the space of just a few days, I had gone from being loved and admired to being a nobody. The person I had once been, the woman with purpose and ambition, felt like a distant memory. And all of it, everything I had lost, was because of one night. One mistake. And now, I had to face the consequences. Alone. Jobless. Empty. I had lost everything. And for what? One night. I reached out to David. I don't even know why I did it. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was desperation. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew that I had nothing left to lose. My fingers hovered over the screen of my phone, typing and deleting, typing and deleting. I crafted the perfect message, an apology that was meant to convey all the remorse, all the guilt, all the regret I felt. I sent it, heart pounding in my chest. He didn't answer. The silence that followed felt like a slap. I stared at my phone, willing him to respond, to somehow bridge the chasm I had created between us. Maybe he was just busy. Maybe he was hurt and needed time. I told myself that. But deep down, I knew better. I knew that he was probably sitting there, reading my message, and yet choosing to ignore it. Choosing to ignore me. But I kept trying. I didn't know when to stop. I couldn't make myself stop. I sent another message. And another. Each one more pleading than the last. Each one begging for forgiveness that I knew I didn't deserve. I knew my messages were just words. Empty, hollow words that couldn't undo what I had done. But still, I sent them, hoping for some sign that he still cared. Hoping for a miracle that would bring us back together. But the truth was, no matter how many times I reached out, no matter how many times I poured my heart out into those messages, it didn't matter. He wasn't coming back. He had already walked away, and I was the one left behind, clinging to the remnants of something that was already gone. And as the days passed with no reply, I realized that my efforts, my apologies, my regrets, they meant nothing. He had moved on. And I was still stuck in the wreckage of my own mistakes. Months later, David agreed to meet me. I don't hate you, he said. But I can't forgive you either. And just like that, I knew. He was never coming back. Starting over, but never truly free. I started over. A new job. A new apartment. A new life. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I needed to escape the memories that had been haunting me, to break free from the life I had destroyed. So, I packed up my things, left behind the place where David and I had shared our dreams, and moved into a small, modest apartment. The walls were bare, and the furniture was basic, but it was mine. I told myself that I could build a new life here. That the past didn't matter anymore. At work, I buried myself in the tasks at hand. I kept my head down, stayed quiet, and tried not to make waves. The people I worked with were kind enough, but I never let anyone get too close. It felt safer that way, keeping people at arm's length. I kept a professional smile on my face, but inside, there was a storm brewing. But no matter how hard I tried to move on, no matter how many times I told myself that this was a fresh start, the truth was that the scars of my mistakes would never fully heal. I carried them with me, hidden beneath the surface, like an open wound I refused to acknowledge. The nights were the hardest. Alone in my small apartment, the silence would wrap around me like a suffocating blanket. In those moments, the guilt, the shame, would wash over me, and I would remember everything. The way David's eyes had looked when he realized what I had done. The way I had failed him, betrayed his trust. The emptiness of the bed beside me. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying that night over and over in my mind, asking myself why I had done it. Why I had thrown away everything for something so fleeting. And the answer, as always, was the same: I didn't know. I had hoped that starting fresh, starting somewhere new, would allow me to forget. That somehow, by leaving behind the life I had known, I could leave behind the guilt. But the past was always there, lurking in the shadows, reminding me of what I had lost. The scars were permanent. And no matter how many new beginnings I sought, I could never escape them. Betrayal comes with a price. Not just the obvious price, the loss of love, the breaking of trust, but a deeper cost, one that lingers long after the moment has passed. It's the weight of guilt pressing against my chest every time I see a happy couple holding hands. It's the ache in my soul when I hear a love song on the radio, knowing that kind of love was once mine, and I threw it away. And I paid for mine in ways I never imagined. I thought the worst part would be losing David. I was wrong. The real punishment came in the quiet moments, the ones where no one was watching, and I was left alone with my thoughts. The ones where I had to sit with my choices, replaying them over and over, wishing I could wake up from this nightmare. It came in the loneliness, in the hushed whispers of former friends who now only saw me as the woman who cheated. It came in the coldness of a world that no longer embraced me the way it once did. If I could go back, I would choose differently. But life doesn't give us second chances. There is no reset button. No way to turn back time and undo what has been done. I can only move forward, carrying the scars of my mistakes, hoping that someday, the pain will dull. But deep down, I know some wounds never fully heal. I wake up every morning in a bed that feels too big, in a house that no longer feels like home. The silence is deafening, stretching through the empty spaces where laughter used to live. I turn over, reaching out by instinct, only to grasp at the cold sheets beside me. He's not there. He will never be there again. I live with my choices. Everywhere I go, reminders of my past follow me like shadows. The scent of David's cologne still lingers in the closet, a ghost of the man who once held me like I was his whole world. The framed photos I once cherished are gone now, but their absence is a wound that never quite heals. Our favorite cafe, our weekend walks, even the way my fingers automatically type his name when I pick up my phone, it all reminds me of what I lost. I live with regret. Regret is not just an emotion, it is a prison. It is waking up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, reliving the moment I made the worst decision of my life. It is staring at my reflection, wondering how I became this woman. The whispers at work, the judgmental glances from old friends, the pity in my mother's eyes, they are all pieces of the punishment I now endure. And I live with the memory of the night I threw it all away. That night replays in my mind like a song I cannot turn off. The dimly lit restaurant, the way his eyes lingered on mine a little too long. The thrill of the forbidden, the reckless heartbeat, the stolen kiss that led me down a path I can never return from. The hotel room, the sheets tangled around us, the lies I told myself just to make it feel right. I had everything. A husband who loved me beyond measure. A marriage built on trust. A future that once seemed so certain. I traded it all for a fleeting moment of passion, for a desire that faded the moment reality set in. I thought I was making a choice for just one night, but in truth, I made a choice that would haunt me for a lifetime. And I lost it all. The love that once anchored me is gone. The man who promised to stand by my side has walked away, not with anger, but with the quiet devastation of a heart that can never be repaired. The life I built, the dreams we shared, they are nothing but memories now. For one night. One moment. One mistake. And now, I walk alone.